On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, what is a realistic expectation for Chet Holmgren's development? Is he going to be an all-star? I think so.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, me member and beat writer for Thunder on SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. On today's show, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Andrew Schlecht, a.k.a. Andy Pods, a.k.a. Slam Throw of The Athletic, and Down to Dunk. He sticks by his take that unfrosted Pop-Tarts are good and not just cardboard. We'll agree to disagree on that one, but I love having the Podfather here.
Glad to be here, Rye Guy.
You can also find Andrew and I on the OKC Dream Team show. Andrew, we're getting closer. Now, this is probably just a mental trick that I do, but anytime that football season arrives, it makes me feel like, basketball is just a hop, skip, and a jump now. You get through a couple of weeks of the Tennessee Volunteers disappointing you, and all of a sudden you're back in basketball season, and away you go. You can kind of forget the misery that will be an 8-4 season. So I'm excited now. I'm rejuvenated now that football is upon us. When you look at this Thunder team, it's tough to have realistic expectations. You just saw them win a championship, and now we're talking dynasties, the old D word, Andrew.
That's right.
Whenever you look at this upcoming season, what are you most excited to see on the court from this team?
The thing that I'm most excited to see this season, I really want to see them play again at a really high level. I think that there's nothing better than watching this team play against like Denver, or I want to see what they look like against Houston on opening night. I want to see them play against high level teams. I think that high level basketball, there's really nothing like it. What we got to see in the playoffs we got to see so many games where this team just played at their top level, and there's just nothing better than that. Beyond that, which I think we're going to get great basketball again. They play the right way on both ends of the court. It's amazing. I think the storylines that will keep everybody engaged, that will continue to be topics that we'll have throughout the season. Nikola Topic, Thomas Sorber. I think those are two guys that what do they look like? Can they play? Do they belong in the NBA right away? Can we watch them and say, hey, that's an NBA player? Because there are a lot of guys that have played for this team that you saw it immediately. Cason Wallace, took him no time before you just said to yourself, yeah, that guy can play in the NBA. There's no question. Luguentz Dort, whenever he came in on a two-way, he played one game, and you're like, oh, this guy's better than Terrence Ferguson right away. You could see it right away. AJ Mitchell last year, it was very obvious that he could play in the league within just 10 minutes of seeing him play on the court. What does that look like for Topic? What does that look like for Sorber? I think those are kind of big questions when we're talking about building this roster out throughout the next few years. So, yes, I want to watch high-level basketball. I want to see what Chet, J-Dub, and Shea look like together as they continue to progress. I want to see if there's improvements from Cason Wallace, but the big mystery boxes on this roster are those two. And if they can contribute, you think Sorber is especially a mystery box?
Yeah, I mean, it's because it's so easy right now to say like, oh, well, the Hartenstein decision, like you decline the option, you say thanks for your contributions, and here's Sorber. But Hartenstein's a massive part of this operation. He's a massive part of how they won the championship and how they are primed now to try to go back to back for the first time in 8 years in NBA, in the short NBA parity era. And it's like, if Sorber is not one of those guys that steps on the court and is immediately ready, that can change the equation of what you do with Hartenstein this summer, whether you decline and re-sign him or pick up his option or whatever, which then has domino effects to how you construct the rest of the roster. So like if he is one of those guys that steps in and immediately says that he's an NBA player and then immediately shows you that he can be, the next in line of that long history of Sam drafting well, then it's a big deal. And if he has a situation where we've seen players before, as much as we've seen great players that step on the floor and immediately are great, we've also seen players that they've drafted step on the floor and you immediately say, well, they're not an NBA player. They're not good. And at least they're not good right now. And as such a young guy, it's going to be a lot on him to try to prove what he is. And he doesn't have to be a finished product this year, but just the evaluation point is coming fast for if he really can be the solution once Hartenstein's contract decision is up this summer.
Yeah, I feel like he's less of a mystery box. I think his impact on the roster itself is, like you said, like it's coming quite quickly, But I think the Topic thing, if Topic doesn't work out, it's like, all right, we got a million guards. It's fine. They kind of need a big to take that spot if they don't have a solution for the Hartenstein situation, or if Hartenstein's like, yeah, it's been great, won the title, I would like to make as much money as humanly possible. If that is the goal, then it's probably not going to be here. I think that it's tough to make that happen here. But I do think that Sorber, he was highly productive.
Yeah, I think if you're betting on who's going to be the better player, I would bet on Sorber right now. Of just someone I can see the vision clearly of who's going to be a better player in Oklahoma City. I think that Topic's fit with OKC is a bit dicey, just what he's deficient at versus what he's good at, and kind of how that overlaps with the Thunder skill set. So mystery box in the sense of like Thunder fit, I think is Topic. Mystery box in the sense of you need to understand what you're getting into before next summer. I think that it's Sorber, because whatever Topic does this season doesn't really matter for the long term. I mean, if he's great, then it's just kind of an icing on top of the cake. If he's not great, you kind of forget about it and move on and kind of look at what the future holds for him, giving him more time. Like the time for Sorber's role to change is the next 6 months. And the time for Topic's role to change is the next 2-3 years. So I think that there are two different types of mystery boxes.
Wow. I can't believe that I'm the J. Will believer on this podcast now.
I like J. Will. This has nothing to do with J. Will. I think that J. Will is a third string big. And I think he's a really good third string big. I don't think that you want to hitch your wagons to like a Chet J. Will front court like you did whenever they were in the playoffs in 2024. I think that you want to keep J. Will in that very efficient third string role.
You don't think he could be the backup? You don't think there's any world where he could be the backup?
Well, there was this one time that Joel was like, in all the universes, Mark, what would you say that this was the most likely outcome? And that really got a chuckle out of Mark of just, that was like the most Joel question ever. There is a universe out there. If you ran the simulations 1,000,000 times in all of these different universes, that J. Will could be a second string big. I think that the natural hope would be that your second string big next year is either iHeart or Thomas Sorber.
Yeah. Well, for next year, yeah, for sure. J. Will's only 20. He just turned 23.
But I love the strides he's made defensively.
Yeah.
I think that he's made tremendous growth at that point, from his technique to his footwork to his ability to utilize his leverage down low. I think that all that has become head and shoulders above where it once was. And Sam Presti's talked about how he's gotten more athletic at the NBA level, which is very hard to pull off. And most people don't develop athleticism as they get into the NBA. But I do think that realistically, if you're looking at how J. Will improves from here, there isn't another level for him to reach defensively. Like, this is who he is defensively, which is a good third string center in this league. It's not, a great defender to the level of what Sorber's potential is, to the level of what iHeart is and what Chet is. iHeart and Chet are two top 25 defenders in the league. And then Sorber has the God-given abilities that just J. Will was not blessed with to be that elite level rim protector. So it just changes the dynamic of what your team is built on. If you're doing it more from the ground, if you're doing it more from, J. Will has gotten better at not just taking charges, but, kind of walling up at the rim. He can't, jump out of the gym and swat shots, but he can put his hands up and be firm in the paint and deter some shots that way. But that's still a significant step back from what iHeart and Chet and theoretically Sorber would be able to provide.
Yeah. Yeah. My expectation is that Sorber will be the backup center at some point. I don't know when that will be, but I just think that we shouldn't overlook what J. Will can be. He also, the fact that he can shoot threes now
Yeah.
is a pretty big deal. And so if he can continue to become a good outside shooter, anytime that he's left as the lone big, he's this offensive hub that
Yep.
just gets triple doubles. I just think that we shouldn't understate the impact that he could have. I mean, he would be the backup center on a lot of teams right now.
Yeah. I just think
you don't believe that. You just don't think that. That is crazy to me that you don't think I think he could be the backup center for a lot of teams.
I'm the J-Will guy, and it depends what your definition of a lot of teams would be.
Apparently not anymore.
We had a whole bet last year where you were ready to cut J-Will, and I was going to save him.
You have grossly overstated this. It's gotten more and more.
At media day, you're ready to just throw him to the wolves and just say, "Oh, who cares? It doesn't matter." And now you're just acting like he's got sketch. Look, I think that offensively he can replicate. He has a great chance to develop offensively to be able to replicate the production that of Isaiah Hartenstein, but he just can't grow. I mean, he just can't.
Yeah, I'm not.
So that's why I say his defensive upside is limited, but his offensive upside is absolutely there. And can you get away with a step back from your rim defense if he can replicate what iHeart does offensively? Because you have such a roster full of defenders on the perimeter, where it's a luxury to have somebody on the back end, but not a necessity to have somebody on the back end to clean things up. That's the conversation that you would have with J-Will, but it would be a step backward defensively from what those three guys are or theoretically are with Thomas Sorber.
Yeah, he's just gotten a lot better. I mean, we don't have to go through the teams, but I'm looking at a lot of teams that could use J-Will.
What's the number so far?
I mean, I'm not counting because I'm sitting here talking, but I'm just looking at teams.
Putnam City guys can't walk and chew gum at the same time. In Lawton, we can count and read, but that's just what LPS.
You can count and read in Lawton?
Certainly.
Wow. I wasn't trying to count. Okay. All right. Guy. Okay.
That's all right, Andy Pods. We'll be back talking about realistic developmental courses, which we kind of got into with J-Will, but I want to center it around Chet Holmgren and onward from this roster. Can Chet Holmgren realistically take that next step that we've all kind of expected him to this upcoming season? But first, Andy Pods, let's talk about our good friends over at Monarch Money, because Monarch Money is fantastic. Most people can't even name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, especially when you get into the tax bracket of one Andrew Schlecht. He's got 1 billion properties. He's got 401ks. He's got investments. He's got everything in the world living in Ducktown and Turtletown. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch Money is built for people with busy lives like Andrew Schlecht. So if you're off organizing your finances, Monarch Money is there for you. They can help you organize everything seamlessly and do the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals on categories that you're spending on, and feel in complete control of your finances. What I love the most about it is it categorizes your spending in the sense of like subscriptions. And there's been many subscriptions that I found that I had with Monarch Money that I don't need anymore, and they've been able to save me money by canceling those. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the crack. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com on your browser to get half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast. On the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day, talking with Andrew Schlecht, Down the Dunk, Athletic NBA Pod, Dream Team, Pop-Tart lover of the unfrosted variety, so then why bother? It's like decaf coffee. And we're talking about realistic developmental tracks for this Thunder team.
You guys still doing Built Bar, by the way?
We love Built Bar, but
are you still doing Built Bar?
It's not still in their rotation right now.
It's not. But, okay, I was just going to say the Built Bar Puffs. You ever had one? You ever had a Built Bar puff?
Yeah, I've got a puff. I've puffed before.
Dude, they're good.
Oh, I've puffed a few times. Nothing wrong with a little puff pass on the Built Bars.
But
Andrew, when you're looking at this team, the biggest question mark would be Chet Holmgren in the sense of what is he going to do this season? Hopefully he has a fully healthy season like he did in his quasi rookie season where he played all 82 games. His 2 injuries so far have been complete fluke accidents that I don't think you can bank on it happening again. Hopefully, knock on wood. So it's like if he doesn't suffer a freak injury, he plays
I'm
82
banking
games.
on him just falling out of the sky again.
Yeah, I mean, you can't
landing
bank
on
on
his head.
Seattle falling on him when he's
I
walking
hope no
on
one's
the island.
banking on that. That would be sick. You'd be a sick person.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, well, there's some sick people in Denver, but when you look at Chet this season, I think that's kind of been a cloud of the championship haze, the championship hangover, where we're all just kind of like saying, yeah, Chet's going to be a lot better. But what does that realistically look like to you? And is it centered around that 3-point shot like it is for me?
Yeah, I think it's really just centered around the offense in general. I think that you were starting to see glimpses of that at the beginning of the season. Then when he came back, he was put in this position where he was forced to fit in and hop on this moving train, which he did beautifully. And now it's okay. Can we get back on track to Chet being an all-star level player? And to me, it starts with the 3-point shot, which he's obviously working on, something that he knows he needs to be better at. I think the volume is the thing that really needs to change. He just has to take more threes. I think that when he takes more threes, the offense overall is just more effective. And then two, I think, and I was talking about this on Sunday with Michele, was on Down to Dunk, was about, can he catch the ball at the elbow and have a no dribble move? I think that's another thing that he needs to develop. It's just something where he consistently gets to it. I think the most consistent move that he probably has is the spin move that he has going toward the hoop. It's not one that you can pull off at every second of the game or when the ball is just thrown to you in a pinch. And so I just think that if he could have a move or have a shot like Dirk or KG, because I think he's in the class of big like those guys that are like high level. If everything works out for Chet, he's going to be in the same class as like a Kevin Garnett in my mind, which is it's a high level. It's a really high bar to reach. I think that he's that kind of player. He's drafted second overall. That's who he is. I think once the ball hits his hands, what's his go-to move? Like, what would you say, Rye Guy? What is Chet's go-to offensive move?
Well, he loves to try the mid-range fadeaway if he receives the ball like there.
Yeah.
I think that it could become what you saw in those first 9 games. Of like he fell in love with, which was a good thing. He got the ball at the top of the key, and right off the catch, he's going toward the rim.
Yeah.
And he's getting fouled. He's getting to the cup, and he's able to have some high efficient shots. I think that that's more so where it centers from. I'd be curious to see how efficient it would be to find Chet in the mid range. But to me, like his ideal offensive role would be as a 3-point shooter, where he's getting back to where he was as a rookie, getting back to where he's been in college and in prep, of just being a really excellent floor spacer with this 7-foot frame. And he's a great catch and shoot player who has connective passing. And then he's attacking off the catch more. And off the catch can also lead to, when guys are closing out strong to Chet Holmgren because he's such a threat from 3, taking one dribble in, hitting a mid-range jumper, and that's where he opens up his game in the mid-range. So perhaps that could be like his go-to mid-range shot, just a one dribble, step inside the line, and now you have a wide open shot because of how hard the attacks come to him at the 3-point line. So I do think that it's mainly centered on the 3-point shot because it opens up so many other things, not only for himself, but for others, but especially for himself to score the basketball. But I do think that there's a world in which, you know, he could be at the elbow, back to the basket, gets it. He likes to do the pivot Dirk fade. And if he masters that shot, you know, it could be special.
Yeah. I think really the ceiling for his offense is where we started this, is with the 3-point shot. If he becomes a lights out 3-point shooter, which he's a career 37%.
Yeah.
You know, that's good. That's really good for a center. And if he can just up the volume, which he was at 3.6 last year. Well, let me look at his splits and see where he was before. But I think that the volume is probably a better number to indicate the kind of 3-point shooter that he is, because it just needs to be more than 3. I would love for it to be 7 or 8 a game. I think that would be truly impactful to this roster. And especially when you have guys like Shea and Dub that love to get to the hoop. And even we're talking about Topic and his fit. Topic is another guy that is really good at finding his spots, you know, throughout the paint and getting there. And he's got really good touch. You need floor spacing for that. You need specifically to pull a big away from the rim and to mess up the offense or mess up the defense with a guy like Chet. And if he could become a guy that shoots 7 or 8 a game at that same percentage, he doesn't really even need to improve the percentage all that much to change the way that the offense looks. I think it's truly impactful to what this team is trying to do. I think that is this team's fastball, is playing Chet at center. If he takes a ton of threes, I think that's something that we will eventually see. Do we see it next season? I don't know. But I do think that is kind of the ultimate destiny of Chet with this roster.
Yeah, and I think that we should see it this upcoming season because when you look at it from Chet's perspective, right when they got comfortable together, him and Hartenstein in the double big lineup, and they found their spacing and they found their kind of just simply places on the floor that they needed to stand together offensively to make things work. That's when his legs went from underneath him, which is understandable because he was bedridden for a large part of the season and just fractured his hip. And whenever his legs go, his shot goes because it's a naturally flat shot, and it's made even flatter by the lack of dead legs. So when you look at Chet, I'm curious to see how that looks now whenever he's fully healthy and he's rested and his shot's back. What does that look like together? Because I also think that the Thunder, whether you want to start this lineup or not, like is really good with Shea, Kaysen, Dort, Dub, Chet, but also when you're staggering out the double big lineups, even if whenever you start double bigs, because they're going to do that quite a bit this year, when you're staggering them out, I would have Chet, leave the game first and then have him close the first quarter, close the third quarter with Shea, just because I think that Chet, it can naturally give him a higher volume of threes with the pick and pop stuff with Shea. Shea doesn't need the additional spacing the additional separation that iHeart creates on screen. So yeah, Shea can deal with a worse screen setter for his on-ball attacks. And then you get J-Dub partnered with a guy who's much better at creating separation for his ball handler, and then let J-Dub get downhill, but let Chet feast off of what Shea opens up with his scoring gravity and with his ability to space the floor for Shea. So I'd like to see them partner up, Shea and Chet together throughout the course of this season, and that can kind of give him more opportunities to shoot the ball. And again, just the playmaking that iHeart has, and once they finally figured out what they were doing offensively, that's whenever his shot kind of failed a little bit. So I want to see what it looks like now that he's back healthy. But this guy he's a top 3 defender in the league. And if he becomes a slightly higher volume or massively higher volume 3-point shooter while shooting 37%, this is an all-star. This is like everything that you were promised with Chet Holmgren, which I think is really exciting, of just thinking about how all the different ways where the Thunder, even with a roster that returns 99% of it from a year ago, can get even better.
Totally agree.
There we go. I mean, we disagree on Pop-Tarts. We totally agree there. Coming up, Andy Pods. Do wins matter still? Like, does it really matter how many games Oklahoma City wins after they won 68? We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day, talking with Andrew Schlecht, Andy Pods, slam through, down the dunk, athletic NBA, daily Dream Team Thunder, OKC Dream Team is our podcast name. Listen, I tried to recover. I almost said Daily Thunder. That's not our property. It's Brandon Rabar's property. But OKC Dream Team on Patreon is where you can find both of us with even more hijinks than this.
Yep.
But Andrew, they just won 68 games.
Mm-hmm.
Best record in basketball, franchise record, historic season on by all accounts. We don't have time to rattle off all of their accomplishments. That would take the rest of the show. They just played deep into June, though, the last possible date on the NBA calendar, and 2 7-game series in the midst of that postseason. Do you really care what the Thunder's win total is this season? Or do you care even more because, hey, like the Houston and Denver is so improved that if you can position yourself in the standings to only play one of them instead of both of them, that matters a lot when you talk about the Thunder's chances to repeat.
How bougie can you be, right, guy? Like, I don't even care about wins. I'm
asking the questions. I'm a big J that asks the hard-hitting questions. It's your job to answer it. Don't turn this back on me. I'm just asking the questions. That's the problem with you Putnam City guys, you city slickers. You guys learn how to twist the narrative around, and
right.
You're so bougie. That's the first time anyone from Lawton's been called bougie in the history of America, by the way. And so I think, how dare you?
It's a bougie question. It's a bougie question. Of course the wins matter. Yeah, they matter. I
So
mean,
you think it's really important for them to get the 1 seed this year?
I do think. I mean, I think they're going to get it,
Yeah.
barring injury. I think that that's where they're headed, anyways. But I do think that it matters. I do think that when you're thinking about like their place in history, I think the number of wins matter. I also think it's a really good indicator of where you're at with how many wins you got. And so, like, yeah, absolutely, the wins matter. And this team has shown that even when things don't go perfectly, that they're going to win anyways. I think that's just kind of the culture that they have. I think that that's the way that they are. It would be concerning on some level if the win total fell off like a lot, you know. I think if they won 57 games, which is still a lot of games. I mean, the Wizards haven't won 50 games since the 1970s. So it's not that would be just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's only 57 games. It would be weird, right? It would be strange if they lost, 11 additional games from, last season to this season. Everybody's like, oh, the West has improved. I don't know if the West is that much improved. So I don't know. I think that they're going to win around what they did last year would be my guess. And it's nothing to sneeze at. It's a big deal, but I do think that, wins are an indicator of who you are. And they were certainly an indicator of who they were last year.
So I think that seeding matters and the win number doesn't, because you just illustrated, if they won 57 games, like, yeah, that's a drop off from 68. I think that's discounting how hard it is to win 68 games. And they did it in the midst of like a brutally injury riddled season that has just had terrible injury luck throughout the year. And they still figured out a way to win 68 games. But second seed in the West won 52. So like if you have the 1 seed by 5 games, I think that the 1 seed is most important, and it's how the 57 look.
I don't think I think the 2 seed's gonna have a lot more than that this year.
Well, sure. I mean, yeah, but I'm just saying from the comparison sake of you saying that the West hasn't improved that much. I think that if you look at this team and there are 5 games up on the 2 seed and the number 1 seed, that to me is a success just on paper. Now how did it look? Like, did they get the 57 wins because they were resting on back-to-backs and they're massaging their mitts on 3-game and 4-night stints because they're anticipating another long playoff run? Or were they trying their hardest every single night and just suddenly are losing the games now? Like, that can change things. But I do think that when you mix in the two, to me, the most important part is not getting 68 again, or is not getting 70 plus wins like some people in the comments believe they can do. It's just the 1 seed. Because I do believe that Denver will try in the regular season. I do believe that Houston will try in the regular season. And separating yourself from those 2 teams, who are the teams that I think are your most biggest and legitimate threats, that's in and of itself like what the ultimate goal should be for this season for the Thunder in the regular season when it comes to the standings. And if you win 69 games, it'd be a very nice season. But it to me wouldn't matter a whole lot in terms of like the number of wins, more so the matchups in the bracket style. I don't think that it's immediately a regression if they only win 62 games and they're still the 1 seed. As long as you're still the 1 seed, you can do whatever you want to me.
Yeah. Who do you fear the most taking the 1 seed from OKC?
I mean, I would say Denver or Houston for different reasons.
Well, pick one, right, guy? I'm asking you.
I'll say, Denver, I think Denver's the better team, so I'll go with Denver. I mean, you listen to some folk in Denver, and they think that Denver's going to try harder in this regular season than they did last year.
What's the evidence for that?
Well, the new ball coach. I don't know if you've heard, David Allman. Heck of a ball coach. I love David Allman. I think he's a great coach. A deeper roster. I think that part of the evidence is like Jonas Valanciunas. I think is an awful player for the postseason. Regular season, though, he gets the job done. He's the best backup big that Jokic has ever had since he become Jokic. To be behind him in the regular season, to where it'll hurt Jokic's on-off numbers, which will deflate some of his MVP stands.
Shots at Mason Plumlee, by the way. Wow.
Mason Plumlee, please. Not even the best Plumlee. Whenever you look at, for my money, again,
he's not the best Plumlee.
Oh, you need to dig into some college plums. College plums. The Plumlees in college were second to only the Tyler Hansbrough experience. But when you look at this team, I don't know what you're doing with the Plumlee thing there. When you look at this team with Denver, they're deeper. They're more talented. They're deeper than they were last year. They're more talented than they were last year. And if they do actually try harder in the regular season, then I could see them getting back to where they were 2 years ago, where they won 57 games. If you have any sort of drop off and like you tie them at 57 games or whatever, I don't think that anyone can take the 1 seed to me. So it's like Denver has the best chance. It's a very small chance. To me, OKC is the 1 seed. And that's why I don't care if they're the 1 seed by 15 games or the 1 seed by 5 games. I just care about the 1 seed.
Yeah. I think Houston is more likely to be the team.
Because they're going to try. They're going to have younger guys. They're going to try harder, probably.
They have a much deeper roster than Denver.
Yeah.
They have a much deeper roster than Denver.
Houston, though, I worry about like a start of the season, October, November, stumble, trying to figure out how this all works, trying to figure out what to do with their front court rotation and with Kevin Durant. And they might lose a few games that they shouldn't lose early on, which then hurts them on the back end of the standings. If it all clicks, though, from the word go, then I for sure could see Houston being that team because they've proven to be able to win in the regular season, and this team is talented enough to pull it off and to be the 2 seed or threaten for the 1 seed or whatever. But I'm just baking into the cake a little bit of a team that we all overreact to at the start of the season, which ends up figuring it out, and it's going to be all fine in the end. But it is that team that we pick out every year in October, November to just freak out about.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting that the Nuggets have never won more than 57 games in the Jokic era.
It is interesting.
And
but, we were never on the moon until we went to the moon.
Do you think this is the deepest roster Jokic has ever had?
Oh, I mean, off the top of my head, perhaps. I would say
it's better than the finals team.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a team that should do it. Do it as in win over 57 games if they're healthy and if they're actually trying. Like last year, I mean, they lost 2 games to the Wizards.
I know,
and they won 50 games. And if you make up those 2 games, you're tied for the 2 seed last year with 57 in the win column with 57 wins, 52 wins, I should say.
Yeah, you could, woulda, coulda, shoulda every tons of games for every team.
Yeah, but almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. So they almost did it, but they didn't do it. And I just think that the problem with racking up a ton of wins in this Western Conference, though, there's only one team that couldn't play dead in the Western, and that's the Utah Jazz. Everybody else thinks that they're going to be delusionally so for New Orleans' sake, but they do think that they're going to be able to compete. And I don't think that Portland is a slouch, even though they only won 36 games a year ago. I think that San Antonio takes a step up. I think that it's going to be tough. I don't really care about the amount of wins. My whole point of this segment, if they win 60 games and they're an 8-game regression in the win column, to me, that's not a huge deal.
Yeah, because you're bougie. That's why.
Yeah, well, I can see the forest through the trees. Unlike you city slickers that can only see the tall skyscrapers and you've lost your touch with the inner pirate. I can see the forest through the trees.
Inner pirate? I'm not a pirate.
Yeah, you can't find your inner pirate.
Inner pirate? What does that mean? I'm not a pirate. I'm a panther, man.
I know you're not a pirate. That's the whole point. But also, it's a Mike Leach expression in Friday Night Lights. Great show.
Okay, so. I thought you were talking about.
No, I know there's a big rivalry there with Pirates and Panthers.
I know you've been talking a lot of Putnam City.
What's the other one in Putnam City? Pirates, Panthers, and Bears. Oh my!
Patriots.
I see you weren't a patriot, huh? Speaks a lot about who you are for America today. Mr. I didn't vote. Listen, Andrew. I know.
What are you talking about?
You did vote. I just try to sneak these things in there and see what people will run with. But that was a total joke. He did vote, folks. Calm down.
I don't think anybody cares. I don't think one person cares.
People care about everything. Didn't vote. You didn't do your civic duty. Listen, voting a little overrated in this state. Andrew, I saw today that you did a show about if J-Dub could be better than Shea.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to hear your thoughts on that. We can save that for your second listen. Go check out Down the Dunk and see if J-Dub can be better than Shea. I'm going to say no. And I'm curious to know if we agree on that.
Wow.
Whenever I go listen to the show, even though I love J-Dub, great guy, great player. Go check out Down the Dunk. Check out Athletic NBA. Check out OKC Dream Team. And check out Andrew Schlecht everywhere because he's a media mogul and the best in the business, the pod father, Andy Pods. Until next time, be good and be good to one another.